11 minutes, 38 seconds into the flight, and the flight director, as he polls the FIDO console or the Agena console again and again, gets a looks good report. They're 160 miles now in altitude.
They want 161.
About 900 miles downrange. 8 minutes and 3 seconds into the flight. And we're approximately 1 minute away from the Agena engine shutdown.
They want an orbit of 161 miles, circular.
Seconds. Agena reports a little intermittent, some intermittency on the telemetry signal, but it's generally continuing a good, healthy signal. The Agena now leveling out at the 161 mile mark. 9 minutes. We're 1,100 miles downrange. We've got cut off on the primary propulsion system. The Agena controller advises we had a normal shutdown. And now we'll wait a report from Flight Dynamics. He advises that the cutoff looked nominal in all respects to him, the Flight Dynamics officer. Commands now being sent to the Agena to disable the command destruct system receivers aboard. 10 minutes into the flight.
Well, the first of two highly critical events came off precisely on time. Well, almost precisely on time. They wanted to lift off at 39 minutes and 44 seconds after the hour. It appears that they lifted off at 39 minutes and 46 seconds after the hour. But that's close enough, certainly. And they wanted a circular orbit of 161 miles. The last report they had achieved 160, and I presume they'll get the 161. We will have number 10 in orbit circling below number 8, and in a little while we'll have the spacecraft in orbit circling below both of them. David?
They had a choice, Frank, and I was thinking a minute ago that the more complicated it becomes and the more elaborate representations and models and mock-ups we have, it always winds up with Frank McGee at the blackboard with a piece of chalk. Until I saw you there with that chalk.
Well, that's very kind of you, David. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth. They had a choice between letting the Agena catch up with the spacecraft or letting the spacecraft catch up with the Agena. And they have decided on the latter. Standing down here in this swamp, Frank, looking across at the rocket takeoff, it occurred to me that color television is beautiful, but the sight with your eyeballs of a rocket taking off is almost indescribable. Even in the brilliant sunlight, the fire at the tail of it is so intense it is slightly painful to your eyes. The power is so great, it shakes the earth more than a mile away. And the sound is so intense that if somehow, it couldn't be done, but if somehow it were fed into your television set the way it really sounds, it probably would blow out all the tubes and blow up the speaker.
Rattle it right off the shelf.
I'm sure it would. It's really a gorgeous sight.
You know the thing that impressed me?
What's that?
Is despite the enormous size of the rocket, how small it looks really when it gets up there against the entire panorama of the sky. It looks like a little pencil, slender little pencil rising up there against the blue.
Because there's nothing there to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
If we could send up, say, an automobile or something along with it to give you a point of reference, then you can see how big it is. The Saturn they're setting up over here with Frank, that you've seen, is about, let's see, I think 7 times the size of the Atlas. So big, in fact, that they have catwalks inside of it. And the men who work on it don't work on catwalks around it as they do with the Atlas. They work on catwalks inside. It's like a building, stairways in it. Well, we'll be back for all the details. The next launch is about, let's see, about 50 minutes from now.
That will put the spacecraft in orbit, and during that hold, they will, at T-3, they will update it again and feed the information into the computer that's in the spacecraft, which acts as a backup for the guidance for the boost rocket itself. And the Gemini is now approaching the west coast of the United States, Mexico, Baja California, and it will actually be about 1,009 nautical miles ahead of the Gemini at the time of insertion. It won't be quite that far ahead at the time of liftoff, but it will be ahead of it a little bit, and number 8 should be about 480 nautical miles behind it, and we'll have the 3 things whirling around up there together, hopefully all of them sufficiently synchronized so that they can carry on the remainder of this mission. They had awfully good luck with number 10, and they've had no problems in the countdown with with the spacecraft, so it should work out all right, but it is staggeringly complex. If it doesn't happen today, they have to postpone for 2 days, and then all the figures that they have are no good. They have to back up and do it another way entirely, which they have figured out in advance. And if it doesn't go that day, they got other figures, and it goes on for 16 days. So they've done a lot of work getting ready for this one, David.
Now, you were talking about the computers. It seems to me the age of the computer had to arrive before the age of space, didn't it?
I don't see how it could have been done otherwise.
You certainly could not figure all these variables with a paper and pencil, or at least not fast enough.
Maybe you might be able to figure the first set, but then if you didn't meet those conditions exactly, I guess you would just have to cancel the whole idea until you could sit down with a box of pencils and a bundle of pads and figure out the new conditions. You'd have to pick a time sufficiently far ahead so that you would allow yourself time to compute it.
To do the figuring.
The hold is coming up in about 30 seconds now. And this again is planned. This is to allow them to take care of any last-minute problems that might have occurred, none have so far, and also to let them lift off at the exact moment that they have in mind, which Jack King told us a while ago had finally been computed at 20 minutes and 23 seconds after the hour. 20 minutes and 23 seconds exactly for ignition. Here's King.
This is Gemini Launch Control. We're at T-minus 3 minutes and holding. T-minus 3. Just as this announcement came up, the hold was declared. This is the planned built-in hold. The duration is about 5 minutes and 35 seconds. We will then resume our countdown at T-minus 3 minutes, aiming for ignition of the launch vehicle at 20 minutes and 23 seconds after the hour. We have a window, a period in which we can launch of about 37 seconds. This is the launch plan at the present time. Following resumption of the count, some very important information will be going to the launch vehicle and spacecraft. These are the update flight parameters. The launch vehicle guidance system, of course, is the primary system that directs the vehicle during the powered phase of flight. We send a signal by hard line here at the Cape to the launch vehicle to put in the proper parameters. By radio signal, we send flight parameters also to the Gemini spacecraft computer, which acts as a backup guidance system in the event the primary system fails during flight. If, as on the Gemini 9 mission, the spacecraft computer does not receive the update signal at the T-minus 3 minute mark, we will continue with our countdown because the computer has information that was stored aboard at T-minus 15 minutes in the count. If the spacecraft computer does accept the information, we will make a check to ensure that this information is correct as we continue down the final 3 minutes of the count. We are holding at T-minus 3 minutes. This is Gemini Launch Control.